discussing what the Kings are ultimately doing, man. And look, we'll have optimistic Allen. He makes an appearance normally later in the show. Yeah, I was probably pessimistic Allen to start the show, but I'm just looking at these numbers. But really, it wasn't pessimistic Allen, because I'm just looking at Tankathon saying this could be us, but you playing. This could be our life.
Well, I think the other thing is this could be us one time in the next 4 years, right? It doesn't have to be this year, but this could be us anytime in the next 4 years as we get the next, I don't know, Cooper Flagg or Anthony Edwards.
I'm just saying at some point, like I said, it's just like my passport and my ID with no bear. I don't have the real ID. You're going to have to do it at some point. If you want to play with the big boys, this is what you got to do.
Well, you have to find one of the stars of the sport, which is the easiest way to do it is to land the number one pick in a year of a generational talent. We went through it before, like in the last, I think since Zion was drafted, there's been like 16 all-star players that have been drafted in the last 6 years, and like 5 of them were the number one pick in the draft. So that's your best probability chance.
Jared Williams says it's just difficult to judge the West when the difference between the 9 seed and the 3 seed is only separated by a couple games every year. But Jared, that's not really the case though. That was 3 through like 7 or 8, but then don't try to sneak the 9 in there, Jared.
The gap between 8 and 9 last year was the same as the gap between
3 and 8.
No, it was 2.
Yeah.
It was way more than that. I think so. The Grizzlies were at 48. I don't remember the Rockets.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It was way more than
that. Jared, don't try to sneak the 9 in there. We watched, Jared. You can't sneak the 9 in there. Great stuff. As we wanted to hear, everybody was really excited because Dylan Cardwell brought up Quincy AC and how he wants to have that type of role. Charlie Boltman on social media, he said this though, and Kyle will probably get a kick out of it. I'm kind of glad Mason Jones is playing gatekeeper in these summer league practices. If you can't beat out Mason Jones, deuces. Best of luck in Europe. Now, that's not really how this thing is going, but maybe there is a level of, I don't think it's as cut and dry as that, especially when you're on the same team. But there's probably a level of, hey, this is the equivalent of a 4A guy in baseball. A 4A guy is a guy who gets to AAA, and every time they go to the big leagues, they just can't figure it out. So Mason Jones has kind of been that. But I don't think that any of these rookies need to be better than Mason Jones right now. That's the argument I would say. They need to be better than Mason Jones at some point, but I don't think it's as simple as, oh man, Mason Jones played better than Nick Clifford at Summer League, so Mason Jones is going to get that spot and Nick Clifford isn't. I don't think that's how it's going to work. It's not how it's going to work. Or you could throw Devin Carter in there too.
Okay, so here's why I'm less upset about Mason Jones than John Elmore.
I didn't even bring up John Elmore.
I know, but you were saying I would get a kick out of it because I've been on my soapbox all week about why is John Elmore on the Summer League team when he's not even going to be on the Stockton Kings next year.
I know.
Where Mason Jones, I think, is fine is that 80% of this team, if they choose to, will be on the Stockton Kings next year, right? If Isaiah Crawford decides to stay, he'll be on the Stockton Kings. All of those undrafted guys could either go to Europe or Australia or Asia instead of playing for the Stockton Kings. But if they so choose, outside of Devin, Isaac Jones, Nick Clifford, and Maxime Reynaud, all the rest of those guys are the Stockton Kings next season if they choose to. So I understand Mason being there because Mason is probably going to be on a 2-way contract and on the Stockton Kings next season. So that makes sense. They're prioritizing his development as the leader of the Stockton Kings. That makes sense for him to be on the team because all of these players who don't make the team have the chance to be teammates on the G League team.
Right, but I think it's more so about the idea of Mason Jones is kind of the line. And I don't think it's as cut and dry as you're not better. You have to be this tall to ride the ride. if you're not better than Mason Jones, you can't be on the roster. I thought it was, I just thought it was funny because I never thought of it like that.
No, it is great because they already gave the second two-way contract to Isaiah Stevens. So there's only one left.
Yeah.
There's one open roster spot, obviously, but they're not going to give any of these people an open roster spot.
Right.
They're all competing for one spot.
Yeah.
And right now it's Mason Jones because Mason Jones was the two-way guy last year. So it is literally, if you can knock Mason Jones off the pedestal, you can have the last two-way spot. And honestly, that's not going to probably get decided right now. That's probably going to get decided at training camp.
Right.
But,
so let's hear from Dylan Cardwell and Chris Watkins, who's going to be on the show in a little less than an hour, went a bit viral with the Dylan Cardwell sound as he brought up Kings great Quincy Acee, and a lot of people were having fun and liked that Dylan Cardwell. He knew his Kings history. Here it is.
Just energy, man. Just keep being an energy guy. My role is energy, rebounding, and defense, toughness and physicality. And I try to be the Ben Walls of this team. And so I'm a big fan of Quincy Acee. You know, Quincy Acee is like a King legend in my eyes. You know what I'm saying? So I try to fill that role. That's my role. And then as far as my development goes, just obviously offensive scoring and free throws. So yeah.
There you have it. A lot of people were excited that Dylan Cardwell knew his Sacramento Kings history. And look, this is a guy who kind of a defensive dude, defensive-minded player out of Auburn. So he was on that stretch. They had a great March Madness run. This is somebody that we haven't talked about a ton. He's 23 years old. We know what Scott Perry's type is when it comes to these drafts. I don't know if they got anybody under 22. I know definitely not under 22. So he's somebody that I'm excited to watch. As optimistic Allen creeps back, I will say this. I haven't been this excited for Summer League, specifically for the Sacramento Kings in a very long time. There are a ton of storylines to kind of sift through. Obviously, I think the headlining storyline is Devin Carter to me. You know, I don't think it's Nick Clifford. Devin Carter, because again, you have certain expectations. You were an older rookie, and now you're coming back to Summer League. You're supposed to look like you're rehabbing, right? You're supposed to look like I'm not supposed to be here. And that's a tall order. So I think the number one story, a lot of people are saying nobody's talking about Devin Carter. I think that's especially with this Kuminga stuff, that's the number one thing people are talking about. So Devin Carter, that's the number one storyline to me. Honestly, selfishly, Maxime Reynaud is the second, because that's just an archetype that I know we can throw is he Dario Saric or whatever. Maxime Reynaud is the second storyline for me. And Nick Clifford is the third in that order. That's the order of my excitement, and that's the order of my storylines. You could flip Nick Clifford and Maxime Reynaud, but whenever did you actually get the sleeper guy, right? Everyone thinks, hey, someone got the sleeper guy. Kings may have gotten two sleeper guys. Last season, we got a bunch of sleepers. Okay, everybody's asleep. All the sleepers. Devin Carter was a sleeper, 13th pick. Nick Clifford, oh man, Swiss Army sleeper, okay, with 26th pick. Oh, Maxime Reynaud, he's supposed to go first pick in the second round. Now he's a sleeper. He could have won in the first round. Now he's a sleeper. So who is actually going to hit out of the sleepers? So that's the overarching storyline.
So other than him just being your guy, why specifically do you feel Maxime Reynaud is a more interesting storyline at Summer League than Nick Clifford? Because both are probably going to be contributors on the team next year.
Nick Clifford, if I'm being honest, it kind of just ties back into Devin Carter. I guess you could say that battle is more interesting than Maxime Reynaud, but I'm owning it. I just want to see Maxime do every time I look up, he's doing that windmill dunk. He loves that windmill dunk. I saw they posted a hype video and I reposted it. They got that. He loves that windmill dunk.
All you want is a windmill dunk today.
We're going to see it quickly. Shout out, no Emmanuel, even though we were talking Raptors yesterday. 916-339-1140. Let's get to JR